Hi, Deanna. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. This is so fun.
Yes, I know. I'm so excited to talk to you. I was actually just recording the intro for Suzanne Kohlberg's episode, and I was telling everybody about how you recommended her, and then she, without knowing, recommended you. And I'm like, see, people, this is networking. This is
Yes,
how
I
it's
love
done.
Suzanne. She's the coolest.
She is. Well, I mean, you're actually the coolest, but she's pretty cool.
We all should have a cool off contest. That sounds like we have to cool off, like we're in perimenopause. Like we need to cool off.
We might need one of
right
those
now.
also, actually. So before we dig into today's topic, which I'm super excited about, tell everybody a little bit about you and about what you do.
Yeah, so I'm Deanna Seymour. I am a graphic designer and content coach. So I help people sort of turn up the volume on the fun in their brand if that will help them have more fun. I just said fun twice. That's how much fun it is. Fun times two. But yeah, people who mostly are solopreneurs and they just are like, we're having to do everything. And so I feel like if you don't sprinkle more fun into it, it's really hard to get through that task. And we all seemingly left jobs we weren't that happy with to be our own bosses. So I think we should like allow ourselves that freedom. So that's what I help people
Absolutely.
do.
Yeah. And it should be fun times two or three.
Yes, I know. Sprinkle it all over.
It's funny because a lot of times when I do these podcast interviews, I am thinking about like when we started our business, no matter who we are, except for maybe you maybe did start your business and we're like, I want to do social media. But most of us weren't like, I'm going to start a business because I want to do social media, or like, I'm going to start a business because I really want to make graphics. Unless you're a graphic designer or a content creator, like we started our business because we wanted to be coaches. We wanted to help people. We wanted to sell this product we were really passionate about, whatever it was. And I think most people are like me. We didn't realize like all the other shit came with it. And then we tried, like for me at least, and I think this is big in the beginning of business too, when we're not making money, we're like, I need to just learn how to be all the things for myself. And
Yes.
there is certainly a time and a place, even before you're making consistent income, where it is worth it to invest in people like you who have the expertise that we don't. Like I was telling you before we started recording. So Deanna and I had a consult. I was like, listen, I need you to help me with some things. One of them was this 9 grid that I wanted her to do on my Instagram. And she was like, great, let's do it. And then I was like, nah, I can do this myself. Probably like 75 hours later, I'm like, why does my 9 grid still not look that cool? And also it's been 75 hours. And
Yes.
in those 75 hours, I could have been doing actual like revenue generating activities. So
Yeah. Or like having fun. Speaking of fun times two, if that's not fun to you, like get out of Canva. I'm like, close your laptop, back away from Canva.
it was
I mean, some
super
people
fun
like
for
it.
the first like 2 hours. The
Mm-hmm.
last 73, not that fun.
Not so much. Yes.
Okay, so we have a fun topic today. We're talking about GIFs, GIFs, GIFs.
GIFs.
Settle it once and for all. Are they
I
GIFs or are they
mean,
GIFs?
to me, they're gifts, which I always joke that it's because gifts are a gift to the world. But also like the first word in it is graphic, which is a g. Like you can tell I have a rising kindergartner. Like that's GIF. Sorry, person who made it up. It's GIF.
Yeah,
That's what
it's
I'm
not
saying.
peanut butter. It's a
Mm-mm.
GIF.
Yeah.
I agree. They are a gift. I
Yeah.
love GIFs.
I know. Everybody does. So I just like was gonna dive in. I
Do
got
it.
so excited about GIFs. Okay. Yeah. Oh my God, let me talk about GIFs. Oh my gosh, that's why I'm here. I think, okay, what I wanted to say was that everybody loves GIFs. I think everybody does. Maybe not everybody, but all my friends and I love GIFs. So the first way that I was using GIFs consistently in my life was with friends, right? Like you text back an encouraging yes or a, you know, oh no, she didn't, which is not actually something I've ever sent as a gift, but I'm like, now I'm going deep in the 90s. I'm like, she's all that in a bag of chips. No, I have not sent that. But you get the good reactions
Yeah.
and it's way more fun. My husband and I send gifts back and forth. And so then when it came to my business, it's funny because you were saying, I thought what you were going to say was when I started my business, I just automatically was making it really fun. You were talking about design and marketing and social media. But people would probably be surprised to know that even as a former art teacher, when I started my business, it was actually really boring because I was trying to be really professional.
Mhm.
Because I was like, okay, I'm not an art teacher anymore. Like, I'm not just running an Etsy shop. I'm not just being creative. Like, I'm going to help people with branding and marketing, and I'm going to be professional. So they hire
Mhm.
me. And so I almost like accidentally stripped out all personality out of everything. I took online courses, downloaded PDFs, and did everything I was like supposed to do. And then I wasn't getting any clients. And then I got really mad because I was like, "Ah, people like me in real life. This is like not translating. Like, I'm not getting clients. I'm not connecting with people. What gives? Because people like me. Not to
Yeah.
sound cocky, but I'm funny. People like me. Like, what is going on?" And then it was like a light bulb moment where I was like, oh, that is not how I'm showing up online. Like, they
Yeah.
wouldn't even know the real me because when I'm like making my website and doing my social media and doing all this, like, I'm trying so hard to sound professional.
Mhm.
So when I started peeling that back and infusing more of my personality, it just made sense that I was like, this is how me and my friends connect. Basically, my clients are just going to be my friends who pay me. So let me sprinkle in some gifts in here.
I love it. It's interesting. That's one of the things that I talk about a lot with networking. And you and I have had this conversation too, because you run a networking event as well. And we talked about like why networking has gotten so weird and why it's gotten such a bad rep. And I think that's a huge part of it is so many people are showing up as like, hello, I am a professional and I am very serious about business. And you can hire me because I am so serious. And it's like, okay, great. But like, also, who are you?
Yes. Well, I think it's just when we start, it's just so much pressure. A little bit. Depends on, where you're coming from. Like I said, I was a teacher, so I had a strict deadline of like, oh, if I don't figure this out, I'm gonna have to sign a contract. I'm gonna be stuck teaching for another year. So I had a lot of pressure on me. And I looked to people who were successful, quote unquote successful. And I was just like, okay, I just have to like clone myself to be them. And then I too will be a seven
Right.
figure business owner. Um, and a lot of people talk about, like ideal clients and building authority and all these things that I had like never thought about in real life. And when I started thinking about it, I was like, wait, I don't have like an ideal friend avatar. Like, I've never sat down and been like, what kind of friends do I want to attract? How should I be showing up if those are the friends? Like, my teacher friends, like, I am the teacher friend who's going to go to happy hour after school and like talk smack about maybe the students, maybe the other teachers, definitely the administrators. You know what I mean?
For
Like,
sure, the parents.
yes, like we are going to have chips and salsa, we are going to have margaritas, and we are going to survive. And like, if that's not your jam and you're going to want to like go to professional development about teaching after school, like, that's not going to happen. So I never sat down to be like, what kind of friends am I going to make when I enter this job? How do I want to be perceived? Who do I want to attract? All this stuff. And so that was, I think, part of the piece that was confusing to me when I started business, because I was like, okay, who do I want to attract? Who do I want to da-da? And so really, and I'm not saying this is great business advice, but like, I kind of just started showing up as me, since I am a one-on-one service provider and I work with my clients, and I feel like the cat's going to be out of the bag at some point. They're going to meet with me and see what a rambly ADHD weirdo I am. So like, my website should probably show that off a little bit. And the people who like it will want to book a call with me. And the people who are going to be like, who was that freak? I don't want to work with her. I don't even have to get on a call with them and waste my time.
Yeah, absolutely. They just come to you or they don't. And that's what you want them to do. Very much like
Yes.
online dating.
Yes. And, I think gifts already could be something. There could be people there that are just like, oh, why is she using gifts? Like, I know I've
Hmm.
actually done podcast interviews before, and this was more about email marketing, but I talked about how I love to put gifts in my emails. And the host was like, oh my gosh, I hate gifts. Like, ugh. And I was
Oh,
like, okay, well, like, maybe you're
good
not my
talk.
person.
Bye bye.
So maybe, who knows? Like, maybe already just having gifts on my website or in my emails is like positioning me as like not super serious, which is great because I am not.
A
So
hundred
let's get
percent.
that out of the way. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, but I think it's a great way to connect because there are literally gifts about any subject under the sun. Shows, Bravo Housewives, which is one of my favorites, to be honest. I'm like constantly like naming a housewife and something I need, like Nene Leaks, awesome. Like Nene Leaks, mad. Like whenever I write an email, I'm like, okay, we got to get this. And that doesn't even include learning how to create GIFs of yourself. So there's kind of, in my mind, there's 2 types of GIFs. I guess there's 3 types technically. Is that okay if I get educational for a second?
Yes, please.
Okay. So there's the GIFs that already exist in the world, which is, I feel like, the great starter pack for anybody who's like, oh, I like GIFs. I could use more GIFs in my business. So those are the ones that already exist on Giphy. So if you love the show Big Brother or Survivor or whatever you love, comic book characters, anything, start infusing those in there, because that could start some conversations with people of like, oh my gosh, I love this. And they're going to hit reply to your emails, or they're going to land on a waitlist page with a funny GIF that they relate to. One time I did a page, I was only selling a certain amount of, they were actually custom GIFs I was making for people. I was doing like a little flash sale, and there was only 30 to sell. And so when it sold out, it went to a page with a GIF of Ramona Singer from Real Housewives of New York, if anybody ever watched that. And there was like a famous scene where she was like crying so dramatically on a bed. And so I was like, I'm using this for the person who like missed the sale. And I said, oh my gosh, they're all sold out. And now you're crying like Ramona on Scary Island when she couldn't work it out with Jill, or something like that. And for a second, that was like one of the first times I was really like, I'm just going to go for this reference. I'm just going to do it. And I thought, oh my God, what if somebody doesn't get it and they don't even know who Ramona is? They're just like, who's this lady crying on a bed? And I was like, you know what? If they don't get it, they still get that it's sold out. Somebody's crying. There's, a call to action that's like, sign up for the wait list for the next round. Like, they will still get it. But the people who get it and got the reference and were like, oh my gosh, so funny. I mean, I feel like they were like, Deanna's my girl. Like,
Yeah,
we are now
forever.
Yes. And I mean, there was only probably a few people who landed on that page who really got the reference, but the rest of the people got what they needed to get, which is it's sold out. And who knows, like maybe they Googled it and were like, what's she even talking about? But I remember that being one of the first times I really was like, I'm just going to go for this reference. I also watched that reality show Big Brother. I've done those like in emails a few times. I did like a whole launch that was like Big Brother spoof-ish. But like if people don't get it, they still get that I'm like doing a challenge. Like they don't need to know the ins and outs of Big Brother and the best players ever. But
Right.
the people who liked Big Brother, now we're buds,
Mm-hmm.
So that's tier 1. If you want to get started, you just start finding the GIFs that you love. Don't worry about if they love them or not, because you will go down a whole rabbit hole and you'll start second guessing yourself and you'll be nervous and you won't want to do it. So GIFs you love, stories you love, references you love. Is the easiest thing because they already exist. And you just go to Giphy.com and you search for any ones that you want. Then I think the second level, well, the second and third level are equal. And that is either you creating your own GIFs, which can either be like the rectangle ones that I feel like in my mind I've been thinking of this whole time. But when you're on your computer or when you respond to someone in a Facebook comment, like it's a clip from a show, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then there's also the stickers, which are like in Instagram when you do a story and you type in like heart, and there's like a little cat who does like a heart, throws a heart up in the air, and they're more cut out, right? So those are the sticker kind. And then there's just the regular ones. And I actually have a course that teaches you how to make either of those. And I think making your own still connects with people. I would say the same amount. I mean, sometimes if you do Big Brother and they love Big Brother, like you might even connect more. But when it's you, I think that really ups your authority in terms of your brand. Because then people are like, oh my gosh, she has GIFs. Like, she's so cool. Like, that's her podcast cover. When you search her podcast, it comes up. Like, now all of a sudden, I'm, hot shit because I have my own stickers on Instagram. And it's like, you just make them and you submit them for approval, and then they're there and searchable. But doing the personal ones, I think ups your level of like authority And is actually really nice when someone signs up for something and like lands on let's say they join your newsletter and then they land on a page that's like, okay, cool, go check your email, make sure you click confirm on da 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 da. But it's you being like, oh, right. And it's a GIF of you. Then they're like, okay, cool. Like I just joined your newsletter. And like I said, phase one could be it's a real housewife saying cheers. And they're like, oh, she likes housewives so why? But if it's you, they're like, ooh, she's the real deal. And now I'm connecting with her. Does that make sense? And it puts
Yeah.
me on like real housewife level because now I'm also a GIF. So that's my brand is so awesome that I'm GIFs. I'm a GIF.
Yeah. Yeah. And what I would love about what you're saying is that it's just another like out of the box way to connect with people. Like we hear a lot of the same things, right? Like tell stories from your own life or like, share the downs, but also the ups and record your be-real footage. And is it be-real? Yeah, that's what I meant to say. I got the letter B-R-E-E-L confused with B-E-R-E-A-L. And then this is what happens when two people with ADHD try to record a podcast interview together. Sorry, everybody. We hear like a lot of the same things about like show everybody who you really are. But this, I think, is a different way to connect with people like on a different level. And I think that's so fun.
Yeah. And also the movement is fun, right? I mean, I wouldn't suggest every single photo on your website be a GIF because then you would be like, seasick by the end. That's me again giving away my age. You'd be nauseous by the end. But it's a fun little thing when you land, like I said, on a landing page. This is sold out. Oh, what a bummer you missed this. Or like this fun thing's happening. I have one on my about page. It's like again with the like not I won't say weird reference, very specific reference. Because even sometimes my husband is like, what are you doing? Like, is this a business? I'm like, yeah, the more you think I'm weird, the happier I am to put this on my website. But there's a movie in the 90s called Can't Hardly Wait,
Uh-huh.
where the kids like graduate high school. And there was a guy in there named Kenny who has
I
this line,
freaking love Kenny.
right, with his goggles on his head, and he's like, oh, you are far too what does he say? Oh my gosh, I'm like messing up the thing in my big
It's like
moment.
you
You are
are far
way
too
too
fine
fine.
to look so sad.
Yes. And
Mm-hmm.
so I changed it. So actually, and this is like a sneak peek of kind of my secret tech behind doing this. It's super easy. I go to YouTube, I find anything I want, and I use Loom to just record my screen. And so I got Kenny saying, you are far too fine to look so sad. And I just made it like you're far too fine to use those templates. Like, like to be funny on my about page. And then I'm like, maybe he didn't exactly say that, but you know what I mean, But it was just a way for me to like call out that like I'm from the 90s, like I'm Gen X, da, 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 like we know something, like we have stuff in common. And it just moves the page along. It's like, of course, I have photos of me on there, but it's like not a picture of me, still something to break it up visually. And like I said, kind of gives a nod to like pop culture and where I'm at, how old I am, and connects with people.
Yeah. I
So
think it's
that
a
was a funny
cool
one
way
I
to
did.
like interact with people when you're not actually there to interact with them.
Yeah. Yeah. And I always go back and forth. So I do think I personally use a mix of both. Like I think I would argue that the pop culture ones and the ones that are me probably connect equally. And I think it's sort of nice to have both of them because, like I said before, just repeating myself, but like the authority and the actual connection with me as a person, but also people connect over favorite songs, favorite videos. Oh, this is from the 80s. This is from the 90s. All those things connect just as much as seeing my face. And if you're following people on Instagram or whatever, like you probably already seen their face a bunch. Like our
Right.
faces are plastered all over our websites. Our faces are, showing up in our reels. So I still think that the pop culture ones do a lot of connecting in
Mm-hmm.
their own right.
Mm-hmm. For sure. I just did a podcast episode that came out today, actually, about the know, like, and trust factor in business. And I keep thinking about that in this conversation because I think it's such a fun way for people to get to know you and get to like you and get to trust you. Like, I'm just thinking of you specifically. Like, we only met very briefly, virtually somewhere. But I could tell like the vibe, right? You weren't like, oh, I am very serious about business and branding. And I was like, okay, I love her. But then I go and look at your Instagram, right? And there's like a bunch of Pee Wee Herman on there. And I can name all of the people who are on your Instagram. They're not people, they're like chairs, but still, I
Yes.
can name them. And then I go look at your website and it's like super fun and funny and colorful. And there's like these references to Can't Hardly Wait, which I get. And automatically, like there's automatically a bond with the two of us, right? Then I was like, let's connect. Let me put your networking event on my list. Like, let's have you on my podcast. Let's do all the things. And we don't actually, like, I feel like we know each other really well, but we really don't. I just feel
Yeah.
like we do because of the situation that you've created online that's allowed me to know so much about you.
Well, that makes me so happy because that is exactly what I was talking about at the beginning that was missing in the beginning of my business. And I was struggling. I was like, well, I'm gonna have to keep teaching because nobody like this isn't translating
Yeah.
online.
Yeah.
And when I really looked at it to find out why it wasn't translating, I was like, it's not just not translating. Like I am not, I mean, there was like stock images on my website and um like it was like I was definitely like one of those keyboard stock images with a woman with like well manicured fingernails, which were hot pink, which is on brand for me still. But like my fingernails never looked like that. Like that is not, it just wasn't me. It was just like there were some little glimmers of me coming through, but overall, when I sat down, why isn't this translating? Like, how come nobody knows how funny I am? I was like, literally, there's nothing funny or cool on my website
Yeah.
at all.
And nothing that sets you apart from all the other people who do what you do. I think that's one of the reasons that I have been so successful in this new venture, not as much when I was a dating coach, because I don't know. I don't think I was as me when I was a dating coach, but now it's like there are so many people who show up to my events or are members of the Powerful Women Rising community or who listen to this podcast just because like they like me, like they think I'm funny, they think I'm clever, they think I'm weird, whatever it is, right? But it's like something about me is endearing to them. And I keep thinking about this friend I have who we went to this conference together and she is like one of the funniest people on the planet. You would love her. And I remember this woman who was a branding expert, air quotes for those of you who can't see, came up to her at one point during the conference. She was standing at the door welcoming people in. It wasn't her conference. She was just being herself. And she was doing it in a very silly, funny way. And this branding expert went up to her and said, I don't know how you expect anyone to ever take you seriously when you act like this. And her and I had a conversation afterwards, and I was like, here's the thing though, like when you act like that, the people who want to work with you are like, oh my God, I love her. Like she is the best human. You don't want that branding expert lady to be your client. Like the two of you in a room together is not going to be a good time. So if
Mm-mm.
you acting like this is what makes people like her be like, ew, no, let's go ahead and keep doing that. Like, let's let them be like, ew, no.
Well, and it's so hard to do that in the beginning because I remember being like, "You mean you want me to like repel people? Are you kidding me? Like I need to get money." Like I
Mm-hmm.
always talk about, I'm very open about the fact that I was a teacher. My husband has always been a line cook. His job does not pay well. He works so hard and does not get paid what he deserves. So my business has to make money, and I'm not trying to be like bragging about that. I mean, I wish it didn't. Wish we were like independently wealthy and I could just like cool out. But from the beginning, it was very much I have to make money. I am an art teacher who now like knows how to work QuickBooks because I have to pay attention. Like I have to know that I'm making enough money that I can pay myself my paycheck and things are working correctly. And so the idea in the beginning of repelling people was so scary that I was playing it so safe that I wasn't getting any clients. And I was like, oh, I kind of
Right.
get what you're saying. But anybody listening who's like, I know, I hear people say that, but it's like, sounds too risky. Just like think about it. Like, are you actually getting the number of clients you want? And could you try it out for 6 months, 3 months? Could you just give it a try? And I was going to say too, with the branding expert, my branding, I always talk to people when I say, I'm like, I just break the rules of branding because I specifically work with service providers, solopreneurs who show up for their clients, like one on one, whether that's a coach or a bookkeeper, or like I said before, the cat's going to be out of the bag. That's different than me working with, a health and beauty makeup line or something. Like
Yeah.
I do not do product stuff. I don't do like that kind of packaging, market research, like we want them to feel this way. I'm talking about personal brands, and they're going to see you anyways. And if you love Care Bears, then let's put some nod to Care Bears on your web. Like,
Right.
let's break the rules, like you said, so that you can stand out and so that people can connect with you and probably not connect with you. Like Pee Wee Herman, you mentioned Pee Wee. Content Playhouse, my membership is, I loved Pee Wee's Playhouse growing up. And I just thought, gosh, wouldn't it be fun if there was like a business playhouse? Can we just make our businesses more fun and support each other? And it's like based off of Pee Wee's Playhouse. And there's lots of people who maybe don't like Pee Wee. And that's okay because they're not my people. And then there's also people who are just indifferent to Pee Wee. They're like, okay, whatever, Content Playhouse, she seems cool. I'm into it. But there's also
Right.
people who, like you said, know every character, watched Pee Wee's Playhouse, like feel even more like enamored with the idea because of what it means to them in their life.
Yep.
So it's
Absolutely.
not as scary. I mean, I've worked with people who I shouldn't have worked with. You ignore those red flags. So the more you can just like keep them off to the side. Like, I'm shook at what that person said. I'm like, how dare she say that to your friend?
Yeah. I
Rude.
know. I
Who
know.
would want to work with her? But keeping those people at bay is good, I
Yeah.
think.
Because it's not just like, are you getting the number of clients that you want, but it's also like, are you getting the kinds of clients that you want? Like, I don't want anyone in the Powerful Women Rising community who I wouldn't want to like sit down and have dinner with or like
Yes.
have over to play a game or something, right? Like, that's not the vibe. So,
Well, and I mean, you're going to want referrals. So if you have jerk clients and they have jerk friends, like it's not just like a marketing thing to be like attract and repel. It's not just like a thing.
right.
It's like in your life, who do you
Yeah.
want? Who do you want to hang out with? And it goes back to the like ideal friend avatar, like you're saying. When you have to work with the people, when you're a personal brand, I mean, I kind of consider a lot of my clients friends, like at this point, and people in Content Playhouse, sometimes they leave for a season or whatever. They're like, oh, I can't Voxer you now. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, you better Voxer. Like, maybe we won't Voxer all the time, and maybe you won't pick my brain, or, you're certainly not going to like send me any content reviews because you're not in Content Playhouse right now. But like, we're going to keep talking. It's not like you
Right.
have to pay me money for me to want to talk to you
Right.
because I genuinely like all the people I work with.
Yeah. So gifts are a great way to stand out. They're a great way to show your personality, help people get to know you a little bit better, attract the kind of people that you want to attract, and vice versa. So, are there places that you recommend like are better to use gifts than others?
Yeah, I think I've mentioned it a few times. You're like, okay, Deanna, psycho, we get it. Those little pages where people land,
Love
like
that.
sort of a surprise little happy
Hmm.
place. I think an about page is fun, or like maybe when you're getting into like down towards frequently asked questions, like obviously it's not a hero image, So like, where do you have a lot of words that are kind of boring and you could like punch up the fun just a little bit?
Hmm.
So right before, like your frequently asked questions. Like, let's just like have something funny going into like all these things. I personally like to put them in a welcome sequence, especially, and the way I write my welcome sequence for my emails is usually my last one is more of like a thank you for being here, like maybe asking for a reply. But I love to put a fun GIF in there to say, oh my gosh, thanks. Or sometimes the very first one. I don't know if you like the movie Elf, but I love the
Hmm.
movie Elf. And Amy Sedaris is an elf. She's like, oh my gosh, you just made my day. When he says, Deborah, you're pretty as you look pretty enough to be on a Christmas card. And she's like, oh my gosh, you just made my day. And so when people join my email list without a freebie, I say, what? You just joined without a freebie. Gosh, you just made my day. So I just like finding ones because people like Elf. And like, it's not even that weird to like Elf. A lot of people like Elf. So like those kind of thing, like especially the broader, I mean, these shows are like hit shows, they're big blockbuster movies. Like if you're scared a little bit of repelling people, like you pick the right gift, people are gonna know it.
Yeah.
Where else do I put them? I mean, I send them and I'm like, a little extra when it comes to the fun, but I send one of Jesse Spano saying I'm so excited when I send a proposal to someone. Like that's my automated, like, here's your link to your proposal. I'm so excited to give this to you. And then Jesse Spano's doing that, very epic episode of Saved by the Bell. So I really think, like, I'm trying to think, emails, landing pages for sure, breaking up spots on maybe where things get a little boring, but they need to be there on a page. And then I almost put one like every week in my email because I'm here because I do love GIFs. But I think they're great for transitions in emails. If you ever struggle, because you mentioned like storytelling in emails, and my emails sort of go like the story part, and then I have to kind of transition into like, what does this even have to do with your business? Because as much as I like to think people think I'm funny and love me, like they still also are like, what's the point, Deanna? So I love using a GIF as a transition. So when I sort of wrap up the story, or the story ends with like, your mind is blown or whatever, like that's a perfect place for like a GIF to like break the train of thought a little bit, but still relate. And then I usually change it to like, it's kind of like, blah, blah, blah. Now we're talking about
Mhm.
online business. Um, so if you're ever struggling with a transition in an email, think about doing some sort of reaction to what you've already said that will also get you to where you want to go. That's sort of my favorite trick. And then, of course, when I talked about the stickers, if you ever have a summit, if you have a podcast, if you have, a bundle, like anything that you are going to have people also promoting, you want that to be searchable on Instagram so that when people are on your podcast, you can tell the guests too, like if you do a story, like feel free to search, put your podcast title, and then you can like, they can use it if they want. Or like in the summit, like, oh, there's a bunch of gifts for you to make stories with here. I think those are the best ways to use stickers.
Smart.
Um, yeah. And then the cool thing too is like when you go to giphy.com, what you do is you like make an account, then you have to have 5 gifts, original gifts. And this is like getting to the expert level. You can apply to be a brand channel. And that is when your stuff will become searchable. So until you do that, it won't be searchable, but it's really not hard to make 5 gifts.
Yeah.
And the cool thing is you can put in your URL as the source. So if other people go to Giphy and find your GIF and they click on it, it will lead them to your website. I'm not saying that it's like, stop doing Pinterest, just put stuff on
This
Giphy. Like I don't,
might not be your number one lead gen strategy,
it is not. But
but
I
it's still
mean,
cool.
it's SEO, right? Like
Yeah.
it's a link on a very like big platform to you. So I actually looked before I came on here because I was like, how many views do my GIFs have? So my GIFs have 12.8 million views. Dun, dun, dun,
Whoa.
which is
You really are
fine.
like Real Housewives.
I really am. And I don't think mine have that many views because a lot of them are only tagged with like my name and but like I'm not trying to go viral for like being on there being like, what the heck? Or oh man, awesome. Like, so I don't even think mine are that as high as they could be if I started creating GIFs for the purpose of like growing my Giphy channel. I just want them there so that I can easily search for them when I'm in stories,
Yeah.
so my podcast name, my first and last name, and I have little video ones, those can be stickers too. It's just, I mean, I think it's really fun. Of course, like you started this conversation, I'm the person who like thinks it's fun to do all the things that maybe not everybody, like that's my job, right? Marketing and making things fun. But I think it is a lot easier than people think it is. And you can
Yeah.
make them in Canva. And most of us, I feel like, work in Canva anyways. So it's not as tricky as you might think.
So if somebody does want your help with that, with making gifts, with making a 9 grid, because they don't want to spend 75 hours to make a mediocre 9 grid, or any of the other awesome things you do. We were talking about Content Playhouse a little bit earlier. That's awesome too. You have a great networking event. What's the best way for people to get in touch with you and find out about all your things?
You just head over to deannaseymour.com and that has all the things. And if it's okay with you, we talked about that coupon code, so I'm going to say it
Do it.
because I do have a little course, little workshop for making gifts called Gif It Up. If you go to deannaseymour.com and you click on resources and go to my everything page, you'll see it on there. Probably if you just Google Gif It Up, it should come up. And if you can't find it, you just message me and I will send it to you. But if you use the coupon code Powerful Women, you can get it for free. It's normally $50. It's just a short little way to show you how to make them in Canva, and it's like I said, not as hard as you might think. So,
That's awesome. I'm gonna go
yeah.
get it right now.
Yeah.
That's great. Well, thank you so much for being a guest on the podcast. I always love talking to you anyway, but this was such a fun topic and a lot of good ideas, I think, for people to start using GIFs and stickers and make their stuff a little bit more fun and find some new ways to connect with people. So I love it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.